In The Monkey, we follow a young boy named Hal. He and his twin brother Bill find a strange toy monkey among their father's belongings years after he abandoned them. They discover that when they turn the monkey's key, someone local will bite the dust. After witnessing a couple of deaths, they discard the monkey, but 25 years later, a series of fatal accidents occur, leading Hal and Bill to believe that the monkey is back and needs to be dealt with. So this is a horror comedy. It's carried by silly deaths and gore, but at its core, it's a story about bitter family ties, more specifically about fathers. There's a recurring theme of estranged fathers throughout the movie. The twins, for example, were left by their father at a young age, leaving them feeling betrayed. Other characters in the movie have comparable experiences, and during them is when the monkey enters the picture. It feels like the monkey is supposed to represent something there, almost like a smile-esque metaphor, where it represents trauma specifically attributed to absent fathers, like it's the monkey on your back. But it is a horror comedy through and through, emphasis on comedy. There are a lot of really gruesome deaths that are comically over the top. They're very graphic, but none of them feel dramatic or frightening. It's almost like Final Destination, except less convoluted and more silly. Honestly, maybe The Boys is actually a better thing to compare this movie to, since that show is now little more than a gory joke. The deaths are really silly because of the ways that some people die and the reactions that people have to them, but I wouldn't say that they're really campy. It's just kind of stupid with two O's. Some of that is kind of funny, though I don't think I audibly laughed at any of the deaths so much as I just, kind of blew air out of my nose a little bit, because you kind of just see them coming a mile away. There's a lot of dark humor beyond the gore that I did laugh at though. For example, there is a lot of nonchalance around the fact that gruesome deaths are happening suddenly, and they're all happening for these two pubescent boys to witness. There's a running gag in the movie of exposing these kids to awful things and then doing a terrible job of talking them through their traumas. The one gag that tends to always get me in comedy movies is smash cuts, like they cut from one scene to another with a drastically different tone for comedic value. There is a lot of them in the first act, and they got me like every time. Nihilistic humor is all over this movie. Most of the characters other than Hal contribute to some sort of abysmal experience for him, but for different reasons. Like his mom has no concept of soft delivery when her kids have heavy life lessons to learn, and other characters are very animated. Some of that is substantialized by actors acting to the camera. They will sometimes be staring directly at the camera while being strangely inauthentic. It feels bizarre, but in a way that screams, everything is weird in this movie. What the movie is not, though, is scary. Certainly gory, but not really frightening or tense, so if the quality of a horror film is measured by how scary it is to you, then this one might leave you hanging. What I think will raise a lot of eyebrows is the fact that this movie doesn't really juggle all of its themes very well. It has its silly, gory delights, and then it has its family stuff, and they just don't really do each other justice. I definitely prefer movies with character depth and emotional stakes, but this movie's serious themes are sort of undermined by its focus on absurd horror. That criticism can actually be made in reverse depending on what type of horror movie you are looking for, but I just personally found myself wanting more out of the theme of estranged fathers. It is more of a theme than it is a subject that's fully explored. The connection between the monkey and leaving your kids behind feels pretty loose. It very well could just be about director Osgood Perkins' experience with his dad, or maybe it is actually a theme that's ripped from the book that this movie is based on. I don't know, I haven't read it, but I would honestly appreciate insight down in the comments. As an ordinary viewer who didn't do any of the reading or research, which will be a lot of viewers, it just felt loose and underdeveloped. It's not like Smile, where the monster fittingly represents the curse of trauma. It very well could just be a basic horror movie and it's not really trying to say anything, but then that raises the question of why have this recurring theme of fatherhood? That leads me to believe that they are trying to say something with that. So with that, am I just supposed to think that the movie is about family-induced trauma being the monkey on your back, and that manifests into a toy that kills people beyond your will, including people you don't know? So maybe I am looking at it a little bit too hard because it just feels like a stretch. It doesn't feel like it has anything interesting or nuanced to say about the importance of being a good dad who's a part of their kid's life. It's like the movie is simply saying, hey, don't be a crappy dad, which is a fine message. It just doesn't feel fleshed out. That in the movie's dialogue around the fragility of life. There's a Killing Joke-esque narrative around the fact that sometimes bad things happen and that's just life. It feels like there was a good idea there because it's floated a couple of times and it makes sense for this story, but they didn't really do anything with it. So the movie is okay. I have a feeling that it will be a mixed bag for a lot of viewers, but for different reasons. For the people who just want an absurd horror comedy jam-packed with gory antics, all of the family stuff might feel like it's muddling the story. And for people like me who like a horror story with depth, you might find that its themes are underdeveloped and perhaps even mismatched. So for me personally, I thought this movie was fine. I think that it will probably do best with viewers who just want bloody, stupid fun and not really much beyond that. But if you were hoping that Osgood Perkins, the Longlegs director, would come back with another horror movie very similar in tone, you should curb your expectations. It is a very different movie. Thank you for watching this review. If it brought you any value at all, please give it a like. It really does help the channel grow. I'll see you later this week with a review of I'm Still Here.